The first step is we need to make our watercolor panel for the front of our card. Now I've already pre-stamped the Zen Ocean stamp. I absolutely loved this when it was on the sneak peeks. I knew I had to order it. I actually just ordered it before any design team allowances or anything. It's one of the most beautiful stamps I've seen in quite a long time, with the shells and the fish and the oysters. I mean, there's so much detail in here, and we'll really make it sing with our watercolors. So I've already embossed it using Versamark, my powder tool, of course my tiny tray, and I use Simon Says Stamp Ultra Fine Rose Gold Embossing Powder. I love these coppery rose gold tones, and I think this just looks perfect on this card. Of course, I'll link all of those supplies up if you want to know exactly which ones I used, and I do already have videos on how to heat emboss, and there's just some stray powder laying on my desk that I've picked up. I have here my Rinse Well. If you haven't seen this tool, this canister here is full of clean water, and there's a reservoir of water here, which every time it gets dirty, you can empty out and it just refills. It also has some places to pop your brushes in there. And I have my collapsible clean water dish that I keep here as well. Today I'm going to be using my Prima metallic accents. These are a beautiful set of watercolors, quite inexpensive, great value. You can use them for calligraphy or for painting. It's what I used the other day for my mermaid water wash, and there's a great variety of colours in here, and they also work great on black cardstock, so you really do get a lot for your money in here. And again, I'm going to, as always, use my dropper bottle just to activate them all, and of course it's all linked for you below the video. So I'm going to activate all the paints because I want to be able to switch between colours. And the other thing is that I really want to get that metallic pigment picked up, so I like to drop some of this water in so they start to dissolve, and then they're easy to work with. So I'm going to speed up me going through the watercolor process because it is a little bit time consuming, and then we can get going with how to make that shaped card front. my piece is now dry, and it actually took me 10 to 15 minutes or so to actually paint it. Now, it probably looked like a long time once I'd sped it up, but it's actually fairly quick. I used that pearlescent colour at the end just to colour in those areas in the middle, because I didn't want them to look flat. I wanted them still to have that nice sheen, and we are going to do some more embellishment at the end. But I also wanted to mention the Q-tips you saw me use, and if you, I don't think it was in shot, but I have this lovely little Q-tip holder, and I use them for everything in my craft room. In particular with this one, it's great if you add a little bit too much pigment or water on an area. It just allows you to pick it up and get that detail back into your shell or fish or whatever you happen to be cutting. Now, I didn't have the die for this particular stamp, so I grabbed my circle cutter. This is an EK Success tool, and it's great. You pop it down in the center of wherever you want your circle to be. It has a rotary cutter in the bottom. You twist this piece here and you can move it up and down, and I had it there on the 6, and when you, in centimeters and in inches, and then when you have it where you want it, you just turn it and it's back in place. So that gave me that nice piece, and you hold this top bit and this bit moves around freely to cut, and you just press this down, and then you can cut either way. So I pre-did this piece. We just need to make it a little bit shorter so that it'll fit on our card base. So I'm just going to trim that down, and this has a great little pull-out piece, so I can make sure I have it the right length. And I'm going to trim first of all at the bottom of the piece, and then I can trim in after that. So I'm going to trim just here. So we're now down to 5.5 inches. So I'm going to leave it there just for a second. I'm actually going to get it down to 5.25 in a minute, but I want to cut the piece on my card first of all. I'll pop that to the side. Hopefully it doesn't fall down. And for my card base, I'm using a piece of the Simon Says Stamp metallic cardstock here, and I've just cut it at 5.5, so this is 5.5 by 4.25, and I'm going to open it back out so that I can cut my circle. So what I want to do is I want it to be bigger than my last circle, and my last one was 6. So I'm going to put this up to 7. I'm putting my centerpiece in here along my score line, and I'm eyeballing it to round about halfway down. So again, I'm going to hold this here, I'm going to press this down, I'm going to cut the curve, and I'm going to cut the curve. What that does it means that we have that lovely curved piece, so that when we put our insert in there, you'll see that it just kind of covers over the top. Now our Zen is going to fit in here as well, and now we can trim it down to the size that we would like. So I like to always have it full size, and then I can play around with it accordingly. So I like it there, so I'm just going to turn it over. I'm going to grab myself a pen, this one happens to be to hand, and I'm just going to draw down this back piece so that when I bring my paper trimmer back in, I can cut along that line. So there's our finished piece to go on our front panel. Now I already pre-cut myself a piece of Neenah Solar White to go on here as well. This is, I just cut a smidgen off of each end, right about 1/4. So you would cut around the 4 by 5.25 mark, and that makes your insert. Now to finish off my insert, I want to do some stamping. I have my Tim Holtz stamp platform here, and my pre-cut Teflon mat that I pop inside of here. And it already still has my Zen in here from when I Versamarked earlier. And I just cleaned my stamps right on this surface. So again, I'm going to just move this along so that I get a little bit of that Zen circle on here. And I don't want it to come right to this edge because I want it to be tucked underneath here. So I'm going to just make sure, and I'm going to scooch this over another smidgen. And of course the advantage of the photopolymer is we can look through and find if we like it or not. And if you're happy, you can place your magnets down. And again, I can check it again because I like to check things 100 times before I stamp. My husband has ingrained in me the whole measure twice, cut once. And I'm going to use the My Favourite Things hybrid in Berrylicious. Just do a little bit of light stamping. because I want it to mirror that piece. So I'm going to stamp this down, lift it up, a couple little patches. So I'm just going to very lightly re-ink because I don't want it to be too dark. I want to still be able to write over it in black. And then I'm going to remove my Zen Ocean, and I'm going to be using another honeybee set for the sentiment. I'm going to be using Mermaid Song because it has some fantastic mermaid and sea related sentiments in here, and I'm going to be going for sending a sea full of love. So again, let's pull that off. We shall pop this down. I'm going to pick this up, and my stamps are sticky because they're brand new. To make sure that's straight, and I'm just going to be using a black ink. My favourite thing is Hybrid Black, one of my favourite sets. I think I have the majority of the colours, and again we can pop that down. So that's our insert fully done. So now we can get assembling. Move all our tools to the side. So here is our completed card base. I'm just going to firm that crease up. So the first thing I want to do is stick down my piece here, and I'm just going to make sure it fits everywhere and that it doesn't require any more trimming. And then I'm going to use my Tonic Funky Tape Runner, which is one of my favourite tapes. And I'm going to open this out so I can line it up perfectly. And the first thing I do is line it up with the crease and then line it up with the front piece. And if you have any little hangings over, you can just trim those off with scissors, because when you stick things down they never seem to line up the same way they did when you try to cut them out the first time. So now we can also add our insert. Like so, and I'm going to centre that up again. So that's the first part of our card assembled, and now we can add our final embellishments. So for the embellishments, I've got a few different things here, some Nouveau drops and some sequins and things. And first of all, I want to put this piece of rope on there. I fiddled around trying with a bow and it just didn't quite sit right. So I went with just kind of a sailor's knot, and then I'm going to trim it at an angle and I'm going to fray the edges so it just looks like it's a piece of rope on the edge of the boat, and just kind of finishes off that nautical theme. I've got 4 colours here of Nouveau drops. I have that pearlized, which is called Ivory Seashell, very appropriate, the navy blue, the silver lining, and the Wedgwood blue. And I'm going to use a little bit of each one just to add some depth and dimension and extra shimmer to the shells and water bubbles and all those fun accents that are within this Zen Ocean. I would caution you to always try them out on the back of your hand before you get going, because you don't want a big splodge in the middle of your work, and I find that just trying it on the back of my hand gives me a much more even effect when I'm working with them. And so this will need to be one of your last steps, because you don't want to open the card and then squish the drops and then you make a mess. So I'm also now going to use my magnetic bowl here, which I use for all sorts of things, to open up my sequins. These are the Honeybee Ocean Shell Mix, and I'm using some glue dots to stick them on here, and I'm going to stick some on these corners so they don't look quite so bare. And I'm going to just play around with them. I'm also going to put some in that top corner as well, and a few on some of the bubbles and things, just to add that little bit more texture and interest to the front of our card. And you can play around with these as much or as little as you like. I also, you'll see in a second, I decided that that shell at the bottom wasn't right. If you use glue dots, you can just twist and you can pull it up and the glue dot will stay there and we can add another sequin. And if you didn't want that glue dot there, you could just use your adhesive or sand eraser to pick it up. And I'm just going to pop a different sequin over the top. I just didn't like the shell down there. So I also decided that I wanted to add a little bit more blue. So I grabbed my Salty Ocean Distress ink and my Barber's brushes, which I did a video on earlier in the week, just to add a little bit more blue shading so that it all blended together a little bit more. And you can see there that beautiful metallic accents. And here are some of the pictures that we took as well. Do check out the blog post below, and all your supplies are also in the description. You can also check us out at Hedgehog Hollow on Instagram or here on YouTube. We're on Facebook, and of course subscribe to the Honeybee and Hedgehog Hollow channels while you are here, and I will see you again next Saturday for some more Saturday stamping. Happy stamping! Bye!